everyone, and welcome to Mego Museum's Mint Off Card, where we talk about new figures in the 8-inch retro scale. And this is an exciting year. I know that Mego collectors often can't agree on things, and that's just people in general. But I think they would all agree that 2022, in terms of choice, was pretty fantastic. I can honestly say 2022, I had to make a lot of decisions as to what I was going to pick up and what I wasn't going to collect. And those are good problems to have when you're talking about a format that is as niche as ours. It's amazing that I can walk into a store and see so many choices, and every week we're bringing new news. So I have to say, 2022, you really delivered on the goods. So, with any year in recap, I wanted to give you my personal top 5 and a few runners up. But also, I've asked folks on the Mego Museum forums for their opinions, and I will share those as well. So, let's break it down. Let's talk about my top 5 of 2022. Hang tight. For number 5, I had to choose Teenage Bog Monster by White Elephant Toys. I was blown away by the charm of this figure, and when initially I saw it, I thought, that's cool. But then when I got it in hand, I just realized that, yeah, this is a B-movie action figure. And that's one of the cool things about Jason over at White Elephant is he kind of gets it. It's got this, dime store feel to it. It looks like it's a vintage toy, but it's not. And the design is completely original, even though you swear you saw this in a B movie somewhere. And that is really artistry to put something together like that you think but you absolutely don't. And I want to applaud Jason for that. One of the other runners up would be his Lilith, the Vampire Bride, which I totally adored. But I got to give it to the Bog Monster this year. And he's also got wonderful other characters like mummies, and there's some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline from these guys. So I'm very intrigued about the future of White Elephant Toys when their first stuff out of the gate is so fun and good. Number 4 for me is Gravity Girl from Birdman and the Galaxy Trio by Figures Toy Company. I love the guys at Figures Toy Company, and the one thing they really knock out of the park for me is the Hanna-Barbera characters. And they've really had a amazing year. I should encourage you to check out their site and see what you've missed. They've done an incredible amount of characters, be it Scooby-Doo or Presidents. I mean, they just launched Scrappy-Doo this week. Who'd have ever thought we'd see a Scrappy-Doo figure? Not me. However, my favorite thing they do is Hanna-Barbera superheroes, be it the Super Friends or Space Ghost. And Birdman and the Galaxy Trio is like one of my original loves as a child. And I ordered Gravity Girl without hesitation and then realized, hey, I forgot Vapor Man. So I need to make a purchase this month for Vapor Man. But just a solid figure, and it's so nice to see these characters brought to life, and I highly recommend you check out their output this year. Number 3 for me would be the Mego Planet of the Apes Taylor figure. For me, it's just nails it on the head. That is the Taylor figure I looked for as a kid and couldn't find. And for me, it's that perfect mix of detail, but that bit of 70s clunk that should be there, that just, I don't know, it warmed my heart. I loved that he was on an original, Type 2 type body. Not that the bandlist version would have upset me, but it's yeah, that's Amigo Taylor figure. And I'm glad it's, one of the last figures they're going to put out with an elastic band body. I'm just breathless. And as a runner-up, I think the Mutant and Brent are fantastic action figures. The Zera's okay, but I'm such a Beneath fan that this just kind of overrides everything. And I say kudos. And I really hope these sold well because I need a few more apes in my collection. But I will honestly say I'm also kind of content with what Mego has done. They have made some really cool stuff. Number 2 for me is Elvira, Mistress of the Dark by NECA. I adore Elvira. I took 2 trains and a bus to see her movie back in the 80s. She turned me on to so many movies that I've always just had kind of like an indebtedness to her. And she was the only horror host I ever experienced as a kid. So I'm a lifelong fan, and getting an 8-inch Elvira action figure was an absolute dream of mine. I didn't do a mint off card review for this because I think I was like the last guy in the world to get one of these, and I felt like it was kind of yesterday's news when it finally arrived. And that was a mistake because this really would have been a fun video to do. And it is a gorgeous action figure. It comes with 2 heads. I prefer the one I'm showing here. It has a goblet, a wonderful little skull thing, and of course her dagger. Now, in the runner-up department for NECA, there's a couple of entries actually for me. I loved the exclusive Shout Factory Battle Beyond the Stars Sybil Danning figure they made. Who'd have thunk it that we were going to get Battle Beyond the Stars anything in 2022? That was amazing. I've also been picking up anything they do with Jaws in the 8-inch format, and I have all those figures, but it's kind of like a fingers crossed that they somehow do Bruce the Shark and figure out the whole Roy Scheider likeness thing. I really am hopeful that they do that, but this Elvira figure is an absolute home run, beautiful action figure. So before I get to number 1, I want to give a shout out to some folks at the MEGOMUSEUM who gave their props for their top 3, and I'm just going to go through them and name some of them. We've got NECA's Angus Young from AC/DC, which is an interesting figure that launched just at Christmas. A lot of people mentioned the Figures Toy Company's Scooby-Doo line, and that is a pretty impressive line. Things like the Werewolf and Frankenstein's Monster and the Snow Ghost were held in high regard with collectors. There were a few votes for the Mego Pinocchio box set. I've not seen that, but it does look really impressive. Somebody mentioned that, NECA did Elton John with piano, which was pretty amazing. Figures Toy Company also released the Phantom Stranger. Like, what an obscure character, and it looked amazing. So a few folks were mentioning that. A lot of folks wrote in about the Mego Hasbro Pulse Ghostbusters set, and that was a really fun and well-made set. And there were a few votes for Rima, the Jungle Girl from the Super Friends line, and I just realized I didn't buy that, and why haven't I bought that? Thanks to everybody who shared their opinion on the MEGOMUSEUM forums. I really appreciate it, and obviously I read every entry. So the number 1 for 2022 won't really count as much of a surprise, and that would be the Mego 50th Anniversary World's Greatest Superheroes, or as I like to call it, the elephant in the room. This was just too big to ignore. We've had 8-inch superheroes before, but the attention to detail on this line, as I waxed about in my video from last month, was just phenomenal. I now have the entire set, and my opinion has not changed. It's actually improved on this figures. The nostalgia buttons it pushes are crazy, but more importantly, at least from my side of things, is characters we didn't have as a kid, like Flash and Green Lantern. I remember as a kid, other kids telling me, oh yeah, I've got Amigo Flash at home or at the cottage, but I never saw it. And, it's that thing I think a lot of Gen X kids went through, wondering if there was this figure or not. I've seen a ton of 8-inch Mego-esque Flashes and Green Lanterns in my time, and a lot of them were nice, but they never quite hit those nostalgia buttons for me. And these 2 figures, they hit those nostalgia buttons for me. They look like they belong, and that's a pretty great effort. I mean, that's my opinion, but I am kind of a discerning person with regards to that. They truly look like they came out in 1976. Like, that's the aesthetic I get from that, when Mego was kind of like at their prime of 8-inch action figure making. The only thing that I have issue with in terms of that is the fact that, they've included now a Green Lantern. I'm sure they had the mold kicking around, but I don't know if we would have gotten that in 1976, that accessory. We would have just probably gotten the figure, and we'd all have been fine with that. So that, my friends, is my take on 2022, but it's not an official take. It's a conversation, and I'd like to keep that conversation going, be it here on YouTube or on our Facebook group, Megomania, or at the forums at MEGOMUSEUM.com. There's no wrong way to do it. There's no wrong answers. I'd really like to hear what you thought your top 3 of 2022 is, because, hey, I may have forgotten to buy the thing that you like so much, like Rima, and need to correct that. So hit me up. I want to hear what your top 3 of 2022 is. So that's it for Mint Off Card this week, folks. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. If you're new to this, please consider hitting like and subscribe. I do this every week. If you're not new to this, please consider liking and sharing it. It really helps me out when you do. I'll be back next week with another review. Until next time, buy what you like. Cheers. And if you like what I do on this channel, please consider looking at my store. We have 8 issues of a magazine, 2 toy books, and 3 different action figures available, and some new collectibles will be arriving in January. The link is in the description, and I really appreciate you looking. Cheers.